You're listening to Galaxy of Film. All right, and welcome back to another brand new episode of Galaxy of Film. I'm, of course, your host, Max. This week, I'm not joined by Pablo, but here instead we have our business and legal director, Nick Hamblin, stepping up to the co-host plate. How are you doing, bro?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing today?
Quite well,
Good to be
man.
back.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a couple of weeks. I can't remember the last time you were on here, actually.
It's been a while. Schedule's opened up, and here I am.
Yeah, it's always good to get you on, bro. Always a good time here at Galaxy of Film, of course. We got a special episode here. I know you're very excited about. You've obviously been like the big anime guy on Galaxy of Film, pretty much since day one. So this is definitely a long time in the making for you for sure. But yeah, bro, good to get you on here. We're not alone, thankfully. We've got Curtis in the house. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, brother. How are you doing?
Quite well, yet again, man. Nothing much has changed since the last time we recorded. I know it hasn't been too terribly long.
Yes, sir.
What's been going on that's new in your life, man?
Oh, not much, man. I got promoted to be a manager at my job. Just came back from a convention this week, so kind of reinserting myself to work life. But no, life's been good, man. Can't complain.
Very nice, bro. Glad to hear everything's, keeping on the upside for you for sure. Always good, bro. Always good. We've also got Will from Mayhem Pictures, our Connecticut division here at Galaxy of Film. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Good. Yep.
I think last time you were on here, we were talking Barbenheimer a few weeks ago. So
yeah. And that was
What-
awesome talking about those amazing movies.
quite the difference in tone
Yeah.
for this episode.
Yep.
Compared to Oppenheimer. But yeah, man, it's always good to get you on here, have you involved, of course, too. But we have a very special guest this episode. Of course, we kind of teased it last week. We are discussing some Dragon Ball this week. We're discussing Dragon Ball Z Dead Zone. But we have a voice actress from the franchise, Stephanie Nadolny. How are you doing?
I am so good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Of course. It's great to get you on here. Like I said, you're a voice actress within this franchise, obviously. I mean, you are in the Dragon Ball series as Goku, but also as Gohan throughout the rest of the franchise, and kind of returning back for Kid Goku moments throughout the series and flashbacks and whatnot. So it's great to get you on here for kind of the first Dragon Ball movie. Actually, it's
Yeah.
definitely a cool connection we have going on here. But before we kind of go ahead and discuss the movie, kind of want to ask you a couple questions, get to know. Excuse me, I can't even talk today. Kind of get to know you for a second, if that makes sense. So yeah, just first off, question I have for you: how were you approached to voice Gohan / Goku throughout this franchise?
Actually, I got the audition through my music contacts. I was singing and touring with a show band for about a couple decades, actually. Right out of high school, I joined a show band. I'm a singer, musical theater, singing, dancing, acting, all of the above, and I was traveling with them. They're called Vince Vance and the Valiants. They've been around 52 years. And I started, naturally being, on tour. I met a bunch of people in the industry. I started working on people's original music, some other bands, Brave Combo out of Denton, Texas, which is a Grammy Award-winning polka band. Basically, I started singing with them and working on original music. Through them, I got some contacts to voice toy voices. Like, it could be anything from children to women's voices, babies. I did some Halloween and Christmas and all kinds of like seasonal toy voices. And then we did some just regular voices as well as singing songs in those voices. And that's kind of what got me on that road to being a voice actor. And then I got the audition through Barry Watson, who was at one of the sessions with Brave Combo recording the original music. And he said, "Your voice sounds really animated." And I was invited to do a session for Chuck E. Cheese as Helen the Hen. And then from there, I got the audition. And I showed up for the audition, but this was a long time ago, 1998, didn't know anything about anime. I just was told it was a cartoon.
Oh, interesting.
I had never seen it before. I auditioned for the female characters, and before I left, they said, "How about the voice of a child? We're looking for the voice of a little boy." So I had been doing funny voices my whole life, and I had lots of mimicking type skills. So I did a boy voice, and they liked it. They just wanted to be kind of raspy, and I was cast as Gohan.
Oh wow.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Great. Real quick, did you say you were in a polka band at one point?
Yes, I was working with an internationally Grammy Award winning polka band called Brave Combo. They're out of Denton,
Oh.
Texas.
Mhm.
They're they've been around well over 45 years now. This was back in the 90s. I guess it was probably close to the mid 90s. And my show band and that band worked at a lot of different a lot of the same venues, actually, being that we're all Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, based. So they would be working at we'd be working at German Fest, and we would either open for them or they would open for us. And that's kind of how we crossed paths. And we started, networking. I started sitting in with their band, and then the founder started writing his own original music, and he had my voice in mind. And so we ended up doing a whole album back in like 97. And it's never been released. It got shelved. Hoping to get that out at some point because the fans are asking about it. And I'm like, it got shelved a long time ago. But that was all prior to my voice acting career, really.
That's awesome.
And then after some years passed, I was asked to voice KO and OKKO, Let's Be Heroes. And I came, went to LA for that one. That's a non-anime role. But all of the stuff that I've done is on my Wikipedia, my IMDb page.
Very nice. That's awesome. I had no clue about the polka stuff specifically. This is a totally unrelated guilty pleasure of mine that our audience is very familiar with. I'm a huge Weird Al fan, so I respect the polka.
Oh, me too. That's funny you said Weird Al because I write parodies and jingles and change words to songs. I've been doing that for fun since I was a teenager, I guess.
Oh,
Excited
awesome.
some of those. Yeah, they're for morning show radio and comedic networks and stuff like that. So I have some parodies that I've written that are very similar, and then sing the songs
That's awesome.
like the original artist.
That's sweet.
Yeah, you should check it out on the website, which we can talk about later. It's just stephanienadolny.com. I've got some of them posted on that website. It's kind of how to find me.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely have to go ahead and check that out for sure. God, that's incredible. I'm glad you have that connection with Weird Al, though. This was definitely meant to be.
Love me some Weird Al because I'm Weird Stephanie.
It's
Fun to
funny,
be weird.
actually. I used to do YouTube content throughout like middle school and high school. Nick was actually a part of this era of my life as well. And my
Wow.
nickname
Oh, wow.
through that was Weird Max. That's really funny.
That's crazy you mentioned that. Yeah, and the fact the whole polka thing ties into it. I'm 25% Polish.
Oh,
Most of my family, my dad's side, they're all Polish. Only is Polish. So there's the Polish polka, the
Very
segue
nice.
to that as well. So crazy how that stuff can happen.
small world. I love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Nick, you are up next, my good sir.
I'm sorry, did you say my name?
Yeah, I said you're up next.
Oh, okay. So I had a couple questions for you. First, I wanted to bring it back a little bit to when you came up with your voice for Kid Goku and Gohan. How did you take inspiration to make, that certain voice? I know you said, I kind of came up with a little boy voice, but did you kind of look at the character? Did you listen to anybody else and their takes on it, or?
Actually, no. It was kind of on the fly because, like I said, when I showed up for the audition, I was recruited in through somebody that had been a fan of Brave Combo and had heard me singing at some of the sessions. So when I showed up, all I had were what they call audition sides, and there were some lines, and there were a few pictures on them, but I naturally just gravitated towards the female roles, thinking that that's what they were looking for me to audition for. So I auditioned for, Bulma, Chi-Chi, Poir, Chiaotzu.
Oh, wow. So a number of them.
I think I did like 5 or 6 different voices with them. And then they just said, hey, can you do the voice of a little boy? And I'm like, well, I've had, kids and friends. I've watched cartoons growing up. I had stepbrothers and a brother. And
Sure.
yeah, I could do the voice of a little boy. Absolutely. Why not? Let's do it. So I just threw a youthful sound, little boy voice. And they just said, make it raspy. We want a little bit, gravelly. And then how about that? Don't hurt my daddy, and they liked it. And I didn't, didn't know
That's
what
awesome.
they were looking for, but I gave them what I thought was what they might be looking for. And that's what they cast me as. So I got the voice of Gohan, who at the time was, kind of a background character. He ended up being more significant as he got older.
Sure.
And so we started at the Ginyu Saga, director, one ADR director, one studio. It was all very, very small. It's called Funimation. And then the company just kept growing and they kept acquiring more properties. And then there were, more auditions and more directors and more studios and there were more opportunities. And at that point I was asked to work with animation themes. And that's where I was able to incorporate the singing and the music into the anime world, which was really cool. I enjoyed doing that a lot. So you can find my voice on Yu Yu Hakusho, Sayonara Bye Bye, the opening and closing themes to Kitty Grade, a couple of them from Case Closed and Blue Gender. So that was kind of like where it all kind of came together for me. And singing, dancing, and acting, and anything that involves show business. And anytime I can do 2 or 3 of things at a time, all at once, is like
Sure.
a dream job for me.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
incredible.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I
Staying
definitely
busy.
think your voice defined a generation as well. So many of us grew up on your voice acting. So it's crazy to hear it in person. Or, I mean, I know it's through Zoom, but it's crazy to hear it. But I had one more
Well, and
question.
I
I'd love
didn't
to ask.
know.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Just I didn't know that the show was going to be so outrageously popular because I found out fairly quickly that it was a really popular show in Japan and that we were dubbing it in English and things like that. But for it to be a big deal, and then for me to go overseas with my show band and see Dragon Ball Z stuff all over in Italy, and then turn on my TV and Dragon Ball Z is being dubbed in Italian, and I see Gohan in Italy. That in the Burger King toys that they released in the kids meals in like 2000, 2001. That's when I kind of realized this was a bigger deal. And my first event that I ever was asked to be a guest at was San Diego Comic-Con in 2000. And that's when I was like, what is this? What's a Comic-Con?
Oh, wow.
Now I'm doing them every weekend, all over the United States, mostly, in parts of other countries. So yeah, Comic-Con's pop culture is huge. We all grow up with something, and we all have our superheroes and our idols that we grow up aspiring to be or to be like.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
kind of it's still very, very popular. So I'm able to work quite a bit doing meet and greets and signings and things like this, interacting with the fans. And
I'm
I
sure
love
the fans are endless.
oh, I love them so much. It's been great.
Another question I wanted to ask you was, what are some of your fonder memories voicing Gohan, and what was it like to act with some of the other casts, such as the voice actor of Goku and Vegeta?
Most times, well, all the times really, when we come in to do our lines, we are actually by ourselves. So we're in the booth by ourselves, and we have a director and an ADR engineer, and that's really it. So I didn't really work with much of the other cast members unless we did a Walla session where we'd all be in it, 2, 3, 4 of us at a time, and then dubbing like background noises and villagers and different types of things. And then early on with Funimation, we had a cast party once a year when we would be wrapping shows and things. And that's the only other times that I would see the other cast members other than the directors. And then nowadays, we all have our own careers, and I see some of my castmates, a lot of the OG castmates at the Pop Culture Comic-Cons. So I've been doing a lot of stuff with mostly with Cynthia Krantz, voice of Chi-Chi, Linda Young, voice of Frieza, Tiffany Vollmer, voice of OG Bulma, and then some of the others, Chuck Huber and Meredith McCoy. We were all just at a convention last weekend in Florida, so we had a bunch of us there, like the Android 17 and 18 were there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Sweet.
and so we've gotten to know each other a little bit better, but a couple decades later, so it's been really fun. But as far as working directly with, it was usually the director, or we would kind of see people coming and going from like session to session, like in the hallway, or like, hey, how's it going? So
Sure.
specifically, I worked with Chris Kaysen, Barry Watson, who wasn't a voice actor, but he was a director. He's who recruited me, and Chris Kaysen. And did I say Mike McFarlane? I think I just did. He's the voice of Master Roshi. So I mostly know them from when I would just come to work and Sunny Strait as well, the voice of Krill. So yeah,
That's awesome.
Sure.
Sweet. Curtis, you're up next, my good sir.
Yes, sir. First off, honored to meet you. You're a big inspiration of my life. I'm really glad you're being here.
Thank you. Pleasure.
So, having been a part of obviously this massive generation spanning series, what can you say are some of your fonder takeaways that you've taken away from the show, or some of the fan interactions that you've had over the years that have really shown you the impact you've had on like a younger generation of kids?
Oh, mostly the meet and greets, the Comic Cons where I can actually get face to face with the fans, and at the panels, a lot of the feedback has been really life changing. To feel like, years ago that my voice and my castmates' voices have really contributed a lot to, like you said, the younger generation. And they Dragon Ball Z was something that they'd rush home from school to watch, or they would be, you know, going through a lot and they needed an escape, or some people work out to the screaming and the music and how it's kind of impacted their life that way. So and some people went through hard times, or their parents were divorcing, or they were suicidal, or going through some kind of mental issue or whatever, and the fact that the Dragon Ball Z was kind of their escape. And that's like really been life changing for me, because we all struggle, we all go through human suffering. None of us can avoid it, so we all have an escape, and hopefully it's a positive escape. And it looks like Dragon Ball Z was that for a lot of kids, and some of the kids now have grown up and they're in their 30s and they're watching it again with their kids, and it's this kind of sticking around, and it's become nostalgic. And so now that I'm being involved in something so huge and such, I call it the gateway anime, kind of, gateway anime, meaning like it got a lot of people into other animes, or there's
sure.
and Digimon and Pokemon, and then you've got Dragon Ball Z. And so it's like it to be a part of something so outrageously huge is just an honor. And I get so much gratification, the fans and getting feedback from them. But some of those moments are probably the ones that stand out the most, is meeting the fans and talking to people and how the show got them through hard times. And then just really developing an affection for the story and for the developmental aspect of the characters. Gohan, and I felt like I had a lot in common with Gohan. He watched a lot of horrible things happen, and he sat in the background, and he was not very sure of himself, and he's kind of picked on and bullied. And in my real life I kind of was too. And it's like, where's this inner power or this hidden power that we all have? What is it, and how do we access it? And I think that's just kind of mirrored my life. As I got older, I kind of went through a lot of those things myself in real life. So I feel like I had a really close connection with Gohan, and then Goku was my silly side, it's my carefree little boy silly side. It's innocent and sweet, and I could live vicariously through these young boys that I could never be in real life. So it was really challenging, acting wise, but super fun, and really enjoyed the comedic aspect of Dragon Ball, being that I'm just a silly person. I love to laugh. I love comedy. Any kind of theater I did was usually comedic. It was musicals. It was light and carefree and funny. I never did any really serious drama. It just didn't come naturally for me. So, the character voices and the silliness, is just kind of goes hand in hand with my personality.
Right.
I love
Oh, that's
that.
awesome.
That's incredible to hear too. I love the positivity of both characters. It's great to hear, honestly.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of like they're superheroes in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know I would ever be the voice of a superhero, and it's kind of cool. It's like it's kind of gotten me through some hard times too. Being able to work and be utilized and meet these fans face to face from all over the place, and their families, and they hand me their babies, and they just it's just been very it's fulfilled a big void in my life, because I don't really have that. I don't have family. My mom passed away right when I was cast as Gohan, and so there hasn't been a lot of that. So it's really filling a void.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful to hear. I'm glad you have a deep personal connection with the characters too. It's almost like almost like an escape from reality in a sense, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, because it was ongoing. It was like because once Gohan grows up, and then he enters into the Cell Saga. After he's been training, then it becomes really, really, he becomes the lead role there for a while during the Cell Saga, and he has to, his voice deepens, and he gets older and stronger, and so it goes from like, don't hurt my daddy, to like, let's do this, and screaming and yelling, and being a rock singer and traveling in a touring band only made that easier for me, because I was already exercising my chops. I was singing R&B, soul, jazz, Motown, rock and roll, 80s classic rock. I was singing in between touring with a show band throughout the entire time that I was coming in and recording, every few weeks or every few months on the show. So I would definitely wear my voice out, and I had to, rest it and, take care of my throat and make sure I got a lot of water and a lot of rest and stuff like that. But I was already doing that for my singing career. So it just kind of like became an extension
I get you.
of
You were prepared for
being
it.
a voice artist.
Mm,
Right.
that's awesome.
I
That's
love that you
incredible.
mentioned the Cell Saga too, because that is by far my favorite part of the show. That's my favorite
Same.
version of Gohan too. Gohan's my favorite, so that's awesome.
That's great. I'm glad. Yeah, I've got about a 50-50 split on fans. I mean, either they like both or they like one more than the other. It's either Goku from Dragon Ball, or Gohan from the Cell Saga. So I always have plenty of choices. Like whenever I come to the conventions, I bring a lot of prints and posters for them to pick. Or
Oh, that's so cool.
the Comic Cons are great though, because a lot of the fans will bring their own items. Like the Funko Pops are really popular right now. You guys have heard of those? So it's really been fun to like bring all my different colored markers and sign their pops. And then sometimes they bring the double pops or the exclusives and, different kinds of like hard to find things that I don't normally see, or people will draw their art or they'll paint a picture and then they want my signature on it. And just recently I signed someone's Gohan tattoo, and then he went and got my signature tattooed on his leg. And
Wow,
I'm
that's
Oh my
cool.
God.
I was like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, this is like a tattoo of my signature on your leg. Are you sure? I was like, maybe making him sign a waiver. Yeah. Can you call your parents? Make sure your parents say it's okay. But no, I mean, he was an adult, but to me, he was a kid.
Sure,
You guys are
funny.
kids to
Oh,
me.
sure.
Yeah.
That's too funny. Will, you are up next, my good sir.
All right. Well, I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z. I love it to death. It's one of my biggest inspirations in my life, as an artist, as a aspiring comic book artist. So it's just full of so many iconic, amazing moments, and I know for sure you've been a part of most of those moments. So I have to ask you, what is your favorite scene from voicing Gohan or Kid Goku or whoever?
Well, that's tough. I mean, I think I like the comedic stuff whenever he was, jumping on Icarus and trying to like get away from his studies. His mom was wanting him to study, but he just wanted to go out and train. And the comedic moments with him running and, all the fun little reactions that he got to make. But I did find the father-son Kamea wave scene to be very powerful for me, because my mom had passed away untimely and very suddenly. And it was really hard. She was only 50 years old, and I had just really kind of started another big aspect of my career. And I really, expected to have my mom in my life, for a really long time. And so when it came time to dub those lines and to really get into the emotional aspects of Gohan and what was driving him, and I got emotional because I had been through that loss. I'd been, Gohan lost his father, and I had lost my mom, and so I had real life experience to draw from, real anguish and pain and grief and loss and suffering and whatever it took. And then to couple that with my most, blood curdling screams and fighting exertions, it was really intense. And, I had to take that evening or that week when I was recording that saga, really had to just, finish my session and be quiet and rest and just kind of like unplug, to kind of get through all that, because it was really intense work and it was really an emotional thing, which is good, because that's, that's what makes for some good acting, is if you can, whether you've been through it or not, if you can encompass a character's emotion and really try to bring them to life and make it believable, I think that's why the acting is so important, to be able to become and be consumed in a character and become that character, and then get all of it out in just what you hear, just the voice.
Absolutely.
That's incredible. I didn't know that about where you were in that during that time emotionally. So like looking back when I watch that scene again, like it's gonna mean like so much more. Like, during the father-son Kamehameha. That's because you could really feel that in your performance, where like it's so genuine.
Oh yeah, well, good. That's the idea, and we're glad we got some really good stuff out of it. And it's like definitely had, family members and friends and babysitters and people I'd met in my life to draw from whenever I come up with character voices. I was a mimic as a kid, and I was always, like a little parrot, mimicking back and recording and writing songs and poems and singing. And I was just really into anything vocal. And I knew at a very young age that I wanted to be a singer, and I wanted to use my voice for acting and for all the things that I've been able to accomplish. And I'm not done. I've got a lot of other things I'd like to do. I'm very creative and artistic, and I've got all kinds of fun ideas, and I want to get back in the studio and record some original music and work on some more projects.
That's wonderful to hear. I'm glad you're keeping up the pace with it too, honestly. Like the creativity never stops. That's always great to hear.
It's really hard for a lot of us with COVID. My whole band had shut down, and we were full-time musicians, so it made it really difficult. As we all struggled with how we're going to navigate through that time. But it's taught us a lot of stuff, like right now, like this, the technology and the Zoom calls and whatever else we had to do to interact with people. And some people really need that. And I'm one of those people. I got to be around people. I just feed off the energy of other people. And that's why these pop culture Comic-Cons have been such a blessing in my life, because it gets me out of the house. I can just kind of up and travel and, meet and greet and I also take part in a lot of the vendors, like the after kind of get-togethers, the dinners. I like to hang out with the volunteers, the vendors, the staff, the promoters. I really like interacting with people. So it enables us to establish those contacts and then, refer other people and really be a part of something and kind of be part of like the industry itself.
Gotcha. This is awesome to hear, honestly. This much backstory going behind the scenes for this franchise, because it's been going on for so long as well. The love and passion hasn't died down for it. It's wonderful to hear. Absolutely.
I hope I get to see you at a Comic-Con at some point. Are you going to New York Comic-Con by any chance?
I'm not on that one as far as like this year. The rest of the year's already booked. I'm already been booking into 2024. But that's one of the ones I haven't been to yet. And
okay.
Well, I gotta have you now.
And some of them are harder to get into. It's like, it's just kind of, sometimes it's who sometimes it's just a matter of sending out emails and kind of attaching my website and kind of like, or people can like request certain people to come. Hey, you ought to think about so-and-so. And, as far as overseas next year, I've just been invited back to New Zealand after 20 years. So I'm really looking forward to going over there. I don't have all the details. It will be next summer. So yeah, I'd like to, I'm continuing to want to travel some more to some uncharted territory that I haven't been to yet. I love traveling. I love meeting the people, learning about other cultures, and it's fascinating.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Oh, hi, Mark. Hey there guys, how are you? This is Jake coming at you with this week's Stream of the Week. So for this week, I watched a movie on Freevee with my girlfriend called Puppy Love. If you've never heard of this, don't worry because I haven't either. It stars Grant Gustin, Lucy Hale, and it's a Freevee original movie. Now, if you don't know what Freevee is, it is a free streaming service with ads, and it's basically this kind of meet cute thing with Lucy Hale and Grant Gustin, but it's not them that's meeting. It's their dogs, and their dogs hook up, and Grant Gustin's dog gets pregnant, and the two of them kind of have to bond over that and get over their differences and have a relationship for the dogs. Now, I didn't go into this with really any expectations other than this looks terrible, but I ended up kind of not hating it. It's not good. It's something to put on, for sure. So I would recommend it, surprisingly, especially if you're a fan of Grant Gustin and you want to see him do something a little different. It was fine. I've spent time doing things that were less productive than watching this, which is sad to say. But yeah, that's the recommendation from me. Kind of a haphazard recommendation, but I haven't been watching a lot of things on streaming, so as far as it goes, Puppy Love gets a middle-of-the-road kind of thumbs in the middle from me. But yeah, guys, stay tuned for the episode, and hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys. Bye.
And speaking of meeting people, here we have, of course, this week we're discussing Dragon Ball Z Dead Zone. This is the first not only movie within the Dragon Ball franchise, but it's our first time meeting Gohan as well in the series, which is really interesting. So this is before Z, kind of between Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. And just a little bit of a quick recap for this film. This is a very short one. I think, Nick, this is what, like 42 minutes, roughly? If I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
it's 42 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy short, honestly, man. It feels like a short film in a way, which is also kind of refreshing because a lot of other animated projects can feel dragged out to a certain extent. So it's cool. This is a quick entry for sure. But we kind of start off with this mysterious, like, hooded man defeating Piccolo right off the bat. We cut to him more or less, rocking out Gohan's grandfather. He also defeats Chi-Chi right off the bat, too. And then kidnaps Gohan for his Dragon Ball. And shortly after, once he kind of goes to his lair, it's revealed he has 4 others already there waiting for him. Goku kind of rushes to go off to save Gohan. And as soon as he arrives, the mysterious hooded man is revealed to be like Garlic Jr. And at this point, he does have the other Dragon Balls, now having all 7 of them. And wishes, for his one wish of the dragon, it is to basically bring hell to the real life almost. This actual form of like dark hell called the Dead Zone. And also for him to have like eternal life, and so he can kind of control everything, just the kind of like typical big bad guy plot, more or less. During all this whole, interaction of trying to stop hell going down, Krillin and Piccolo both show up as well. And during Krillin's introduction scene, we get this wonderful bit with Gohan actually peeing on his head.
Yep.
Pretty awesome. Definitely one of the better, one of my favorite
endearing.
scenes within this franchise. For sure.
Friends for life.
Yeah,
Gohan
right.
ends up. That's what's so funny is Gohan is significantly younger than Krillin, and it's just so funny. But when I first started dubbing my role, I was in a lot of scenes with Krillin. Like Gohan and Krillin are buddies. They're kind of in the background. A lot of reactions, a lot of exertions, kind of like whoa, a lot of stuff in the background. And people, I remember my friends asking me like, "Why are you hanging around with Krillin?" Like, or why is Gohan hanging around with Krillin? What's going on there?
I mean, especially the Namekian arc, I feel like they're best friends in the Namekian arc.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I was about to say that early on for sure, especially like when Goku's on Snake Way, it's just Krillin and Gohan. It feels like it's a great buddy duo.
Flying through the air together. Hey, yeah. I just found a box. I was just cleaning out my storage room. I finished this morning, and then I was just drenched. It's so hot here in Texas, like triple digits. But I found a box full of VHS tapes.
Oh,
VHS tapes, like.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's some of them still in the plastic. So I was able to salvage those and get them out of the storage room. And for whatever reason, I mean, I know there was a time there where they weren't popular anymore because they were, obsolete. But now I'm hearing people say, "Oh, you mean you need to hang on to those, or maybe sign some of them. People might want them, someday." And stuff. So I mean, I guess they're kind of creeping into that. So it's funny because I saw some of the covers, and it just brings back memories of the scenes that I was involved in really early on in my anime career.
No, yeah, VHS tapes are definitely come back. All right, that's our logo. Galaxy of
Oh, it is. I love that. It's so 80s. So 80s, early 90s.
Absolutely. We also get this great scene of Gohan basically like being drunk in this movie too.
Yeah.
This whole sequence that it's utterly ridiculous, and I love. There's like a dinosaur chasing him at one bit because he gets this forbidden fruit. Great scene. But the movie ends up wrapping up because Goku and Piccolo kind of team up to stop them, or stop Garlic Jr. Excuse me. And then Gohan actually kind of comes at the very end with this massive like Godzilla beam to destroy the Dead Zone and to seal Garlic Jr. within it. And the day is saved, more or less. Goku kind of rides off with Gohan on the Nimbus back home, and he makes comments, reflecting on himself, like maybe I'll tell him when he's older about this situation because he's not going to remember this. One day this is a story to be told, but not for now, for sure. That's Dragon Ball Z Dead
I guess
Zone.
Gohan was still was quite a youngster.
Yeah.
I think it's like around 5 in the story, like around this point.
That sounds right. Yep. Yeah, he was much younger than what I remembered.
Which is crazy. Goodness.
Yeah. Did you guys enjoy it? I mean, like you said, it wasn't like super long, so you didn't have to like commit to like an hour and a half or 2 hours or anything like that to watch it.
Yeah, it was like an
But,
extended episode, really.
Oh yeah.
So the pacing's great because it's just this one big fight at the end, you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. The
Mhm.
culmination.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna have to watch it now just to kind of remember, because I remember when you talking about it, you know, back in my day when we were recording. It's funny too because I just saw Chuck Huber, the voice of Emperor Pilaf and Gullick Jr. And and he's just so
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
that's one of my favorite voices that he does, and we were just on the way to the airport doing our voices in the van, like literally, like
That's
he's
awesome.
like, I know what we should do, because a bunch of OGs were there, and we were all flying back to Dallas, and we're like, we should just randomly like do our character voices in our seats randomly in this plane, like really loud. And I was so ready to take him up on that, but of course we didn't want to disturb everybody.
Incredible.
I was like, I'm gonna bust into East Kai. Oh my, look how high we are. We're flying above the clouds. You know? And he would be like, how are we not falling down? And I don't know.
Awesome.
For Dragon
That's
Ball Z
funny.
fans, they would have loved it, but everybody else
Yeah.
would have been like, get these crazy people off the plane. Yeah. So
Oh
fun.
boy. That's wonderful. Nick, real quick, man, like I said, you've been the anime connoisseur on Galaxy Film since we started this podcast. Basically, you came on, I think, on like episode 8 or something ridiculously low here. When was your first time watching Dead Zone, and what are some of your overall thoughts on this one, real quick?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I grew up watching Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, in the early days when it was coming on Cartoon Network when we were children. So it was probably close to when the 2005 version of this came out. It's probably just right after that, I imagine. But the time I really got into it was when I was in middle school. I remember I just spent a whole summer watching all of Dragon Ball, and that's when I watched the movie as well. So it's always meant a lot to me. I've always thought it was a great starting step to the Dragon Ball Z saga itself from Dragon Ball, and it's an honor to talk to the voice of Gohan.
Absolutely, man. I feel you on that.
Don't worry, my daddy. He's the strongest,
Yes.
Nick, you mentioned that this is a stepping stone in the franchise. I'm glad you bring that up, actually, because I hadn't watched this movie until we were, getting ready to do this episode. But I had seen a good portion of, Start of Z, of course, plenty of times. And you're right. Like looking back on this, I kind of wish I started with this movie. Honestly, I really do. Obviously, you were there for the CB 12 days. Our viewers and listeners are all familiar with that, of course. Xavier, my former Danilo, Blue Turtwig, he was the one that got me into Dragon Ball. And I shame him for showing me the live action movie and not this one.
Oh no! Why did you do
sorry.
that?
I haven't seen that yet.
You're okay.
You don't have to.
I've heard about it. Yeah, I've heard about it. It's totally different trying to do live action with something like Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I know we've been talking about that One Piece show coming up soon, Curtis, on the podcast. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I'm very curious to hear some of your thoughts on this film real quick, Curtis, and when you got into or first watched Dead Zone, excuse me.
So I'm probably the same thing around Nick. It's probably like around mid 2000s, like early 2000s is when I started remembering watching Dragon Ball, because I remember for at least a couple of summers, Cartoon Network would always like, hey, here's a rerun of like Dragon Ball. And Dragon Ball holds a special place because I remember some of the early episodes of like Frieza arc and all that stuff. But the Cell Saga is what I like distinctly remember the entire time. Because Cell's my favorite villain, Gohan's my favorite character, just their whole interaction was just great. Wow. And going back and watching Dead Zone, and it being kind of the first Dragon Ball Z movie coming off of Dragon Ball, which hadn't aired in America until years after Z came out, due to some, like, I think some licensing issues or like something around that time, something was happening.
Yeah.
And then watching Dragon Ball to Z, having this movie kind of be in the middle, you see there's still some comedic elements of Dragon Ball going into it,
Mhm.
mostly centered around Gohan and a little bit of Krillin. And you kind of see where they wanted to go with Gohan being like setting him up to be like maybe take Goku's place one day of him being like super strong,
Sure.
and the eventual friendship between Goku and Piccolo starting off as friends and now, or excuse me, starting off as enemies and becoming friends. And I think Dead Zone's a great starting point for like getting into Z after you watch Dragon Ball, because you start to see that evolution of here was Dragon Ball and now we're going to Z. This is kind of the direction of tone we want to go with. And I still love it. I think it's a great movie for like how short it is. It's concise. It tells the story. It's like, hey, here's this, here's Z.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, nicely put. Yep.
And Will, what are some of your thoughts on Dead Zone as well?
I think this movie's like pretty great. It's just like a perfect like encapsulation, like what Curtis said, of like that end of Z going into, or sorry, end of the original Dragon Ball going into Dragon Ball Z. And you know, it doesn't have like the pitfalls of like, oh, it's like a 50 episode arc of a story, so like the pacing is very succinct. It's just you get your setup and then it immediately goes into that like big final fight, and it's great. And something that was very interesting about this movie, which is what it starts with, ends up being what all the next Z movies kind of do, is that they're like almost like a remake of the arc that is happening at the time, airing on TV. So like this came out around the same time as like Raditz coming down and kidnapping Gohan, and Goku and Piccolo have to go and save him. It's basically that same story. They just kind of swapped some elements around. They took, all right, we're going to take that concept of like Emperor Pilaf, but turn him into like King Piccolo, and change some variables around here, but using that basic same story. So it has this like this feeling that it's just this distilling of all of these cool aspects of the show. And because of that, it is a great first start for Z. And yeah, I think it's beautifully animated. It's got some great fight scenes. It's cool seeing Kami have like a decent like role in this. He's kind of always forgotten. I think this is literally like the last time you ever see Kami like throw hands. I think
I think so.
Yeah.
I think before he merges with Piccolo,
Yeah. So yeah, I do like this movie. I actually only just recently watched it last year for the first time.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this one kind of slipped by. I never saw it, but yeah, of course I grew up still watching Dragon Ball Z. Yeah.
Very nice, man. Very nice. And Stephanie, so obviously, you know, you're in the movie for the dub version later on that came out a couple of years after the subtitle version or the original. Do you have any like distinct memories of recording this one in particular by any chance?
I kind of do once, you know, because you kind of reminded me of what was you know, the story and how where it started, kind of like the origin and everything. I do remember, you know, some of the scenes where Gohan, you know, he's a kid and he's crying, and you know, just different, really younger. Because I remember when we did some things in some interesting order, just due to licensing and, you know, the fact that, you know, the show itself was recast by us in Texas, which we all found out later that there was an Ocean dub record before us. I've met some of those cast members at some of the conventions, even recently. That's been really interesting. So I know that we started at the Ginyu Saga, so I'm not real sure where we came in with the Dead Zone movie exactly, but I definitely remember a lot of scenes with Gohan, you know, really trying to, he was kind of thrown in the forest and kind of like really trying to fend for himself, and, you know, kind of getting some tough love.
Yeah,
you know?
a little bit.
It's like, what are you going to do, you know, when you're all alone, and what kind of strength do you really have? Like, what are you really made of, kind of thing.
Absolutely. You know, those are the moments that matter the most too for character development. So it's really interesting to see that kind of continue on through the rest of the series for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Goodness. Especially in such a like a smaller entry in a way for this film, because it is only 42 minutes, you know?
Right.
So it's really cool to see that kind of carry over further and further. Definitely for sure. Love
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Gosh. Goodness, man. Well, Nick, I think it's going to wrap it up for Dragon Ball Z Dead Zone, man.
Yeah, it was great talking about it. It was great having such a great guest on here as well.
Well,
Yeah,
thanks
it's an
for
honor,
having me.
seriously.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we were in the zone. We were in the dead zone.
Can I ask one more favor from you?
Yes.
Can you say Kamehameha in Gohan's voice for us?
Yes.
Nice.
My year has been made.
Awesome.
Nice. Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so
awesome.
much.
Thank you.
Real quick before we go ahead and go, guys, I want to make sure everyone gets plugged. Curtis, my man, it's always great having you on here. Of course, you've been here for God knows how long at this point, brother. Where
Too
can our
long,
listeners
man.
find you?
No, it's good. People can find me over at Twitch, twitch.tv/Curtis Shack.
Mm,
We're kind of streaming in the later days now. I'm currently streaming my playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3. It's kind of the big game at the moment.
very nice.
I'm like 100 hours in and I'm still not done, but that's
Wow.
people will find me.
Very nice, bro. Very nice. And Will, obviously, you're a part of us of Galaxy of Film with the whole Mayhem pictures, the vision going on. But where can our listeners find you personally as well, bro?
Right now, I am WKArt54 on X, or formerly known as Twitter. I post a lot of art on there. I have a lot of Dragon Ball Z fan art as well. So if that interests you, should check that out.
Very nice, bro. Very nice. And Nick, my good man, obviously you've been with us for even longer than Curtis, which is very shocking, honestly, looking back on this one, because he's been here for forever. And obviously you're very much within Galaxy of Film, but just for the hell of it, man, where can our listeners find you?
If you guys want to find me, I'm on Instagram and Threads at NickH_16. Really just post my personal life, so nothing too special there.
Very exciting, man. Very exciting stuff.
I can see you're in the company of your biggest fan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
You can help but make a pun joke, a Stephanie dad joke.
I love it. Absolutely love it. It's been great getting you on here for this episode to talk, such a historical piece of in Dragon Ball 2. This is the first movie within the series, and I've lost track of how many we are at this point. So It's great to get you on here to talk about this film. I'm going to kind of go over your career a bit in this franchise. Where can our listeners find you, find your music and your other work and your website and whatnot?
So my website is pretty much the place to go. It's got pretty much everything. It's www.stephanienadolny.com. And I do have Instagram, which is just Stephanie Nadolny, and my Facebook is Stephanie Nadolny Voice Actress. I also have a TikTok, and that's at Steph Nadolny. I'm having a lot of fun with those. I'm doing a lot of interactive videos with other voice actors and other guests at some of the Comic-Cons, and also with some of the cosplayers, some of the kids. We're doing different voices. We're trading different voices and reenacting some scenes and really having some fun with that. So that's how to reach me. I will be hopefully getting my album that got shelved up online as well in the coming month or two. Then it always lists where I'm going to be as far as Comic-Cons and special appearances and things like that. I always get we update that every month. So if you want to find, come meet me somewhere or come hang out and get some stuff signed. And that's how you find out where I'm going to be. So I'm kind of all over the place. I've been getting out of Texas a lot this year, so that I've gone to some uncharted territories where I can really, kind of meet see some new faces and meet some new people.
That's awesome. That's incredible too. And for our listeners, links down below for everyone's social medias and whatnot. That way you're not just listening and typing in and having to pause and keep going back and forth. Links are all down below. We take care of you here, guys, at Galaxy of Film. You know how it goes. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening and for watching, for our YouTube subscribers as well. Make sure to stay tuned. Next week, we are talking the Simpsons movie. Got a very special episode for that planned out for you guys. Check out last week's episode where we talked 8 Mile and Straight Outta Compton. Be sure to check out the YouTube channel and our website, galaxyfilm.com. My newest short film, Distinguished, is available right now. You can watch Danilo's short film, Callio's Curse, which came out earlier this year, also on our website, whatnot. And we have our next short film, No Vex, currently in the works. So stay tuned, guys. And thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Bye, guys.